Hey Void, how are you? You guys good? Not so good right now. Okay, so, you like zombie films? I like zombie films. I will agree that there have been an oversaturation of zombie films. That said, even in an oversaturated market, sometimes there's some that still rise above. Like, a couple of years ago, say Train to Busan, or Rampant, or there's a lot of others it could be. But there's some that are just vary by the numbers. And there's some that feel even less than that. Now, feels weird to be saying such things when I'm talking about a Romero zombie film. But here we are. Survival of the Dead. Okay, so I've seen most of Romero's filmography. The original Dead trilogy, good. Really good. Very good. Heck, even the remakes of Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead, still good. Then came Land of the Dead. I had no problems with Land of the Dead. I liked Land of the Dead. Then came Diary of the Dead. Now, this one wasn't great, but it was trying something new in being a found footage one. So, the execution wasn't that great, but it was still watchable, and at least was trying something different. And we got Survival of the Dead. Now, most of Romero's films have a decent message, or are trying to say something. I think this one's trying to talk about human nature, but it's simultaneously ham-handed and blatantly obvious, and yet at the same time I can't figure out what the exact message is supposed to be, so props on hitting both at once. Which is sad, since this is the last film he put out before his passing. This one was circa 2008, I believe. And he was intending to continue on with Road of the Dead, but, well, that didn't end up happening. Alright, let's get into it. So, first off, the title. Survival of the Dead. Are the dead surviving? Is it about the people surviving? I mean, Night, Dawn, Day you get, Land you get. Diary of the Dead, okay, that actually plays into what it is. It's found footage. It sounds like generic. This movie, the title sounds like what a knockoff would be. That's kind of what this movie almost feels like. It's like a knockoff Romero movie, but it's done by the actual guy. Okay, so in Diary, now I know I've been said I'm not going to try to do too many sequels out of context in there, but usually most of Romero's are pretty one-offs. This one actually has direct ties to Diary of the Dead. They're random, pointless, but they're there. Okay, so in Diary, it's a group of college kids who have a film class and they're making movies. So now they're making a documentary about themselves as they go through the dead. Yada 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 yada. So at one point, they just get randomly accosted by some military folks who want to rob them because they're essentially ex-military, but they're posing as the military. Yeah. Well, the main character in this is one of those guys. Because we really cared about what had happened to him. In fact, it actually reminds you who he was because it replays those scenes involving him. And he kind of comments that he went viral when the world's already so fallen apart. Is that a thing people are worried about? I mean, his face got all over, but at the same time, if power grids are failing, and people are worried about survival. Are they really checking online for who's dangerous? I mean, it's not a bad idea, but really, I think people got other things in their mind than one random looter. And if it went viral, most people aren't going to be around that spot, so it's only... That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Anyway. So this mostly has to do with Plum Island, which is off the coast of Vermont, where it seems to be under the control of two different Irish families, the Muldoons and the O'Flynns. Now, I will say, this movie does have some ideas that are trying to get out. So there's a feud going on between the O'Flynns and the Muldoons. Now, the O'Flynns want to, as soon as they see someone who's undead, they want to put them down immediately. As soon as they get infected, doom. The Muldoons, which seem to have a weird fascination with death, want to essentially keep the dead close and keep them alive and try to domesticate them in the hopes that a cure may one day be found. So they are obviously at odds. Now, other than dueling Irish accents, which is probably the best part of the movie, the beginning essentially... the lead O'Flynn, whose name is now escaping me. I just watched the movie yesterday. I can't remember shit about it. Anyway, he gets booted off the island because he gets outnumbered by the Muldoons. Even his daughter betraying him, wanting to stay on, and barely anyone coming with him to the mainland. And at the same time, he is despite having a charming accent, is kind of a bastard. And he's determined to... he pretty much wants to kill all the zombies, which is fine, not a bad idea. But to the point of he won't let anyone get in his way, so he's willing to shoot people who are stopping him from killing the zombies, and so it's portraying him as unlikable. As he pretty much is about to shoot zombie kids, which, yeah, you still should, okay, fine, but he pretty much shot the mother of them to get to them. And then the husband had to shoot her again to put her back down. So he's not a good guy. And then we're back with our military guys, who, from what we saw in the other movie, is an asshole. With his two cohorts. Then one of them is Spanish, and they usually I can't remember his name. But that's pretty much his whole character arc, is he's Spanish, wants to seduce a lesbian. The other one, they just call her Tomboy, because she's a lesbian, and in the military, I guess. Anyway, she's probably the most likable character in the film. I was rooting for her. They are pretty much going across the country, trying to look out for themselves, and, well, taking advantage of anyone who gets in their way. Like they were in Diary. So, as a group, they're unlikable, particularly the lead Sarge. They end up fighting with a group of rednecks and end up picking up a kid who just happened to have been staying with them, who's now happening to be staying with these guys. Oh, I guess there was one other guy with the military. These guys are forgettable, but he was trying to be all buddy-buddy with Sarge. And Sarge was saying, nah, man, nah. Okay. They hear about Plum Island from a video that O'Flynn put out. So, pretty much, O'Flynn's just... The island was safe, secure, and they don't like outsiders, so now that O'Flynn's been kicked off, he's trying to send as many people there just to screw with the people on the island. So, they come, they get into a big fight, and ipso facto, they're all going to the island. O'Flynn has now joined up with the military guys. So we have a whole group of mostly unlikable people that we're following. And that's one of the big problems here, is the one hipster kid that's with them, he ain't bad. And Tomboy, she's fine. Everyone else is just... And the thing is, about halfway through, they try to make the Sarge likable despite showing how much of an asshole he was right at the beginning. They went out of your way to grind it up how he is not a good guy. Then he gets shot, and suddenly he's a decent guy looking out for the kid. It's like they tried to give him a redemption arc, but essentially they went from point A to point B without having an arc. Anyway, they get to the island, and in the beginning they played up a lot about O'Flynn's daughter. Oh, she's a zombie now, who rides a horse. I guess they're trying to do the whole thing where the zombies are slowly getting smarter, and this one's smart enough to ride a horse. Well, how a horse is letting a zombie ride it, I don't know, but there we are. Horse riding zombie girl. And yeah, that's suddenly, oh, his daughter's dead now. She was one of the interesting characters of the beginning sequence, and oh, now she's dead. And then, because I'm going to spoil the fuck out of this film, they have a plot twist out of nowhere where, because O'Flynn sees his daughter, sees her dead, and reacts like his daughter just died. Like you should. Okay, fine, fine, fine. But then, when the kid goes to get medicine and try to find some help for Sarge, he encounters someone who looks just like her. Turns out she has a twin sister that they just didn't mention up until now. And when O'Flynn sees her, he's like, oh yeah, I have this twin. Yeah, I had 2 daughters. Why did you go out of your way to hide that? Because he mentioned having a daughter on the island. A. He specifically said, I have a daughter. That was the most pointless reveal out there. Okay, so anyway, they get into a big fights with the Muldoon, so it becomes Hatfields and McCoys on Zombie Island. Now, the Muldoons they're continuing their experiments to try to domesticate zombies. Mostly, they're trying to prove that if they can teach the dead to eat something other than people, maybe they can move forward. But their experiments have not been going well, so they want to try to catch the horse-riding zombie girl to use her in their experiments because she's obviously so developed. Oh boy. Then it comes to a firefight and pretty much everyone dies, and our cavalry of soldier people just ride out of here saying, screw this place. I mean, like, the twin girl that you're almost rooting for, that's still alive, has a heart-to-heart with her zombie sister, only to be bitten, and now, like, it keeps ruining all the build-ups it's trying to do. And then when the zombies finally, only one person sees her actually go and eat something other than human, she gets gunned down before she can tell anyone. So it's like, the progress is sort of being made, I guess, but how will this change anything? Because even though the zombies are eating other things, they're still clearly willing to eat humans. They acted like that was a big thing, but I still don't get how that was supposed to be. And they do an interesting thing of zombie Muldoon versus zombie Flynn, if they still kind of just go at each other, grabbing with guns that are empty and just kind of pointing them at each other. So there are some interesting ideas that are trying to claw their way out of here, but the execution's just so poor. And lastly, one of the things that can really make or break a zombie film is the makeup and effects. And most of the past Romero films, with the exception of Diary of the Dead, were very practical and went very well. This one is so CG heavy, and it is glaringly obvious, and it looks terrible. There's a scene early on where a bunch of zombie heads are on pikes, and it just looks like a cartoon. So many, not only zombies, but people are getting shot, and there's CG blood spray, and it looks fake as hell. Some of the zombie makeup is okay, but even that's kind of weak in comparison. The only time this film looks okay is at the very end, when there's zombies all over, and they're eating horses. And they see a lot of horse gore. Every other time, it's mostly CG. Like, people get... I mean, occasionally see like a dead body with the back of its head blown off, and that looks okay. But usually you'll see a shot and it's a CG blood spray, or they'll have part of the head just gone digitally. And none of it looks good. So you have a feud plot that's hard to get into because both the people involved in it you don't like. The main characters you're following are led by an unlikable person that they suddenly try to make likable. And the effects aren't good. The first half of this movie, the zombies are more of an afterthought. Like, they're there, but they're not really shown and barely talked about. It's mostly about how people are shooting the hell out of other people. If that's what you're trying to say, Romero, fine. But it wasn't coming across well. This is not good. I will say some of the dialogue wasn't bad. And the acting, it's not great, but it's okay. I'm kind of surprised I have to give a Romero film 2 MacGuffins. And that's mostly just because I've seen a lot of the movies I put at 1 are still worse than this. But this is not even a high 2. It's flat in the middle. It's a flat line of a movie. It's one of the most skippable zombie films I've seen. With the exception of ones that I would actually put at 1. Oh, can't you Rise of the Dead? No, Rise of the Undead, that's why I'll touch on that one someday, but I'm going to need a lot of alcohol before I watch Rise of the Undead again. Because I'm not even sure there are zombies in that movie. I've seen it twice. But that's a rant for another day. Another day. This one, don't bother. You let me down, son. Romero, what happened to you? I can't. We're done here.